Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the Imperfect Action Round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
Welcome, Expert Authority World. I am excited to bring to you a breakthrough coach, a mindset coach, an author of HD Mindset. Have you ever been held back in your professional life? Have you ever been held back in your personal life? Have you had challenges that just come up in your life and they seem insurmountable? I know I have, and I know David has, and that's why I'm excited to bring him up right after we thank our sponsor. How would you like to grow your wealth easier than you think with the change you probably don't notice anyhow automatically? That's why I started the Compounding Interest Snowball Investing with Acorns and advise you do too. Get started simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Dube. David, how are you?
I'm good, Mario. Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you about your business. What inspired you to start it? Why didn't you want to get a job?
Well, it's because everyone told me to get a job, right? If you've ever been an entrepreneur and you start telling people what you're doing, your entire family says you just need to go get a job. And I feel like, well, if anyone, it's happened to me. So if you're an entrepreneur, it's probably happened to you as well. People are like, oh, that's silly. Until you start to make something, everyone thinks you're just doing a hobby, right? So, but the reason I got into what I'm doing is because of all the issues, not only I've had in my life, all the problems I've had in my life, but all the problems I've seen in other people's lives that I so care for and love. I value them so much that all I want to do is help lift people up.
What are some of those problems you see that, really tugged on your heartstrings that you wanted to help them?
Self-belief, man. Our inability to see our truest self and the power that's inherently within each and every single one of us.
Where do you think that stems from with most people, especially entrepreneurs?
I just think society, right? You turn on the news just for 5 seconds.
All you hear
is all the negative stuff. What's that?
Do I have to?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. But if you do, that's what you're going to find. You're going to find a lot of negativity everywhere on almost all fronts. And to me, it's a lot of fear mongering and scare tactics that make you feel like you're only capable of doing so much. But then you watch, you turn on Facebook and you follow all those people, or YouTube, and you're following those inspirational people. And you think, well, geez, is there a difference here? What makes them so much? Why do they achieve so much? And why am I just floundering?
Why do you think they achieve so much more? Because I can tell you personally, I've thought of it before, going, wow, if only I could be like so-and-so, insert name here.
Right.
What do you think really differentiates them?
It's what you're doing right now. You're taking inspired action. Think of it. How many people are really doing what you're doing? People talk about it, but they just don't do it.
I mean, honestly, if you ask me, I would say a lot of people are, but would you say that's more a reflection of who I'm watching and listening to?
Certainly. Absolutely. Right. I think one of the biggest things, too, that a lot of us do is we get into a comfort zone. We hang around the same people who the 5 people you hang around, or roughly those 5 people equate to you personally, mindset wise, financially, family wise, and all those aspects. We're roughly the same as them. But if you want to put yourself in a better position to get more, have more, be more, do more, then you should be hanging around people who are doing way better than you. You hang around those people more often, they're going to rub off on you. It's one of those things. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're kind of the dumbest person in the room.
You need to find a new room, right?
Exactly. And I'm not saying like you're stupid for doing that or being that way. I'm just saying that you need to, if you want to advance yourself, you try to be more challenges in your life. The more challenges that are in your life, actually, the more growth, expansion, and capability you have to get through.
Well, I appreciate you for sharing that, and the compliment as well, because there's a lot of great people that inspire me. I launched the podcast on iTunes. Obviously, this is on video, and you got me thinking about it because there's so many people I've been watching. And it's like, wow, it seems like everyone's doing this, but I don't know, with the exception of Gary Vee and his team, I'll throw in there. I don't know a ton of people doing audio and video because I will tell you it's a fair amount of work. But
absolutely.
So thank you for that. I do want to, I am excited about that. But I mean, to me, it seems like everyone is doing it and I'm late to the party, but maybe you're right. It's all perspective, right?
It is all perspective, but it's one of those things too. Like those people, like Gary Vee was doing his show. He started 2006. No one knew who he was in his parents' liquor store or his dad's liquor store, right? Talking about wine. And he did it for so many years before he was even noticed. And by the time he was done doing what he was doing, he had a larger viewership than Wine Magazine had subscribers nationally. So he made his name for himself by just talking about one specific thing for years before anyone called him a success. And even then, he wasn't really a success. So at least not in his mind. Yeah. And to me, that's the huge thing. Like we will continue to push ourselves down thinking that we're not doing enough, being enough, or having enough when we are actually creating something worthwhile and of value. And we're propagating it in a way that we're just doing it consistently. It's a consistent action. You brought up a good point when we had a conversation not too long ago about, was it most podcasters don't get past the 7th episode, like in their creation
Correct.
Of their podcast. Like, obviously, if you're past 7, you're in the 3 percentile, probably, maybe the 10 percentile. But as it goes on and on and on, that number decreases yet too, right? So if you're at episode 200, you're doing something way better than 99.9% of the populace then. Your consistent action and hopefully inspired action. So with that, you're going to get places, and it may seem slow, but all those people who are overnight successes weren't overnight successes. They showed up. Everyone showed up when they've already made it, but had those 10 years of hard work already.
That's a great point. Most people don't see the behind the scenes, or, I'm thinking of college also, how many people start but never finish it. I'd love to get some of those stats. That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, completely.
Let me pause right here for a second. Do me a favor and take half a step. It would be your left.
To my left this way?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good. Perfect.
Okay.
So with mentioning getting started and the 7 episodes with the podcast and everything, why do you think there is that gap in our mind? Because I was thinking it too, going, man, if I can just get the first 10, if I can just get the first 20, 30, and, I'm excited to be past that in a short amount of time.
Right.
But I mean, there was something I was doing even yesterday going, oh man, I'm behind on XYZ, and I'm not going to say it because it's coming soon. But that was supposed to be February 8th, and it's just been snowball, but I'm past it and excited about it. But again, in my mind, I'm going, hey, this was supposed to go off here a week after launch, and now it's not. Why do you think we focus on, not all the time, but we still have that inner voice in ourselves going, hey, you're behind on this by not a whole lot in the grand scheme of life. Life's a marathon, not a track meet. But why do you think even after all the accomplishments, we zero in on the one thing we did half marginally bad?
Because it's the easiest thing to focus on. It's better. It's easier to focus on the things that we did wrong than the things that we did right, because it stands out. It's like the sore thumb. When most of your body is healthy and fine, but because you stubbed that thumb and it hurts, it's aching because, right? You look at it, you pay attention to it because it's the only thing that's aching on your entire body. Even though the rest of your body is perfectly fine, you're going to focus on that the one injured spot. And that injured spot in your mind is the thing you didn't get done. The thing that's still, collecting dust that shouldn't be in the background.
Do you have any tips or secrets as to how to get past that? If someone, it's very little and in between for me. I mean, I'm not going to say everything's always perfect. Like I said, even yesterday, there was something I'm going, man, I need it. But
Yeah.
it's 1 out of 10 times. So I've worked on it. It's taken years to train myself to do that. What would you say is a great way to get past that? What are some actionable things you could tell someone if 80 or 90% of their life is just negative?
Well, one of the things that most people don't do, no matter how successful or unsuccessful they happen to be, is take clips, or, you've got that email that you got sent to you a month ago from someone saying, oh my gosh, I had an amazing experience. Thank you for pointing that out. It transformed my life. Or, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever, all the things, the cards you've got sent in the mail, all the emails that were sent giving you praise, all the Facebook posts of people commenting or the messages you received, clip those out, print them out, put them in a place where you can look at them when you're having that crappy day or that crappy moment where things just seem to be falling apart from you. Pull them out. Remember the successes you've had. Get a journal. Have a journal where every night and even every morning, you should wake up and you should think about the things you're most grateful for in your life. That helps focus you in a positive light for the rest of the day. And then before you go to bed, by doing it too, it opens you back up to when you fall asleep. It's on a positive note instead of a negative one. That argument you had, or you just turned off the news, or whatever, that email you just checked, or those 10 bills you just paid. Like, when money's flowing out of your account, you need to be focused on the better things in life. And it's so difficult to do when that's the last thing you do at night before you turn off the lights. So focusing on those positive aspects is huge.
Is this kind of the framework you take people through your trainings and your teachings when you're speaking to audiences?
Some of it, absolutely. It really depends. It depends on the audience, their needs, or whom I'm hired to share a story with. It really depends on that. So for me, the last 2 years have been fairly rough. 2 years ago, my mother, she got diagnosed with cancer for the third time, and I pretty much had to put my business on the back burner to take care of her and my blind and autistic sister. And then my mother passed away, and that whole year I appreciate that. That whole year of pretty much 2017 was like just finalizing her estate, taking care of all the question marks of her life. And towards the end of the year, I'm like, I can finally get back to my business, to my life. And as I start, 2018 starts off with 3 people in my life just passing away. 1, 2, 3. One of them being one of my best friends to suicide, which is a crazy thing to happen, especially to someone, like myself, who I feel like if we had a conversation, if he and I had talked, none of this would have happened. But that's a what if, right? That's a maybe a possibility. And certainly he didn't reach out to me, right? So there's all these questions. And I thought the year was over with those 3. But the last half of 2018, my uncle passed away of a massive heart attack. And 10 days later, my brother, who was literally 30 days to his 40th birthday, which I already had planned as a surprise birthday, passed away on me. It was these 2 years have been absolutely incredibly crazy for myself. But it has turned and ignited a flame underneath me to reach more people, do it more often, and help people realize that you don't have time to waste anymore. There's no time to waste. Life is so short, and it sucks. I don't want anyone to have go through the same feelings, through those same, losing 5 people in 1 year. That's incredible. Losing 6, 2 direct family members it's one of those things I couldn't imagine for anyone, and I don't want anyone to go through it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear about all that.
Yeah,
it sounds like you are putting a positive spin on it. I'm hearing in your voice, it's strengthening your resolve to do more of what you were already wanting to do. Is that fair?
Completely. Absolutely. Absolutely. With tenacity, right? With the spark and fervor that most people don't have. They don't turn on their day until way late after work, probably. And then they get home and they just want to sleep anyway or watch TV.
Yeah, I unfortunately lost my dad a couple of years ago too, and it shook me at my core, and it's one of the reasons I started the show, because I wanted to share all the good stuff he taught with me and bring all the people. And the people I invite on mean something, and I know they're making a difference. I've actually rejected a lot of people already, and it's like you're right, we don't have time. If today was the last day, what would you do differently?
Right.
How many
Absolutely.
times do people ask themselves that? I'm having a bad day. What? Because you got an iPhone 7 or 8 instead of the 9X Q5 whatever. Like, that's your bad day.
Right.
First world problems, like, relax.
Yeah, completely. And I hear it in your voice. Like, when you talk, you have this innate passion within you and that's driving you. And I certainly, with the loss of a father, in my case, my mother and then my brother, but a father, like, losing someone so close to you it either makes you or breaks you. And you've used it in such a way that's transforming not only your life, but other people's lives, whether or not you think that or not, it really is.
Well, I do appreciate that. And, yeah, he wasn't the only one that year either. Grandma and some friends too, but I'm glad we got to get connected, because I know we're both doing the right thing on the right path, helping more people move forward with it, because we're not the only ones. It's not about us. It's about, how many more people out there. I've heard a lot of stories, like you said, with your friend, unfortunately, but how many people, I sincerely hope someone hears this and goes, you know what, I should reach out to someone. And
Absolutely.
Maybe they live another 50, 60, 70, 80 years.
Completely. So one of my personal clients, her name's Patty. And after working with her and helping her through her PTSD, which she had, she's gone on to work for a suicide hotline, and then not only work for them, but then become a manager within them. And now is an advocate helping spread the message, and has helped over a minimum of 2,500 people since starting. And it's been a very short period of time for her, but it's so amazing. Like, the transformation people can have in such a short period of time is absolutely incredible. But we don't know what we don't know. And oftentimes what we do is we hold on to that negative because we don't want to forget. And the thing that is so, like, I don't like to use the word sad, but it is sad.
Sad.
Right? We hold on to these things because we don't want to forget, but yet I would never ask you to forget. And that's not what we're doing in transformation. Isn't about forgetting that. It's about using it in a different way that empowers you instead of debilitates you and takes over your life. You aren't depression. Depression is a state of, it's a feeling. It's not a place you stay. When was the last time you had a gut laugh, like a really deep gut laugh? You think about it, that gut laugh, it was there and it was gone. Same with any other emotion. It's there. It will stay for a while, but it will go. But most people, we often don't want to feel the emotion. And when we do, we don't want to forget the association with that emotion. And when we don't want to forget the association with that emotion, then that emotion owns us. And that's the part that really, it terrorizes people, and it hurts them for the long term, when we could be thriving and living and truly experiencing the fullness of life. Instead, we're attached to our past and the things that have hurt us and have taken us down. And you're not bringing value then to the world nor yourself. And that's what working with someone like myself does. Like, I want to help transform that and empower you to do things like my client Patty was literally started to change the world and the lives of over 2,500 people because she no longer has to suffer. But when she's talking to them, she can talk about her suffering to them, to help reflect onto them what they're going through, and saying that she understands that and that you don't have to. I was there. Like, she was there. And it's crazy. And we've all been there to some extent, but it's how far or how close to that edge we've come. And I don't want people to get to that edge and think that this is the only way. You are more valuable than that.
That is a huge breakthrough that she had. Let me ask you, is that the biggest transformation of any of your clients, or do you have another story of someone that, I'm sure you got a lot, but what's the biggest transformation you were able to give someone?
Well, to me, once again, it's not about comparing apples and oranges, because everyone's transformation to themselves is the biggest transformation. And so in saying that, I don't want to, put anyone down for any type of experience.
I wouldn't take it that way.
Right. One of my favorites is actually one of the first ones I ever performed, ever did. And he's my good friend, Blake. And Blake himself was in the Air Force as a parachute rigger, loved his job, didn't like the authority that he had to answer to at the time, and had started a blog, I believe, a couple years before meeting me, on photography. And that was where his passion truly was. He never thought he could ever make it. And one day I met him when I was living out in Kansas City. We were both doing photography, and I made a comment to him about his camera, and then we started chatting a whole lot. Then we hung out pretty much the entire evening. And then I'd asked him, what do you really want? What is it that you truly desire to have for yourself? And I walked him through this process that he was pretty much like my experimental person. I walked him through this process by which he could see his future and live within his future in the moments I worked with him. And the craziest thing, we're on top of this like nightclub. I didn't think it was a nightclub. Like, I knew it was a bar restaurant, but by the time we got there, it turned into a nightclub. But I was like, well, we're already here. And so I did it inside this, on the rooftop of this nightclub, all this music and whatever. But he was so focused, and I got him so focused that he could see and experience his future self. And then I had him walk back through his path. And several years later, from that time, he himself has done extremely well in the photography landscape, and has, to this day, like, he was just in France with a colleague. He does photo tours with people who sign up and pay a lot of money to join him in his excursions and learn from him and participate with him. And for me, that was what taught me. That was one of two times that when I started doing this, that taught me that this is one of the most powerful ways to get people to transform. And seeing him now and hearing him now and how he's evolved and what he's done, his business is flourishing like no one's business. He talks about email open rates. His email open rates are like 80%. They're like crazy ridiculous when you think of email open rates in the internet marketing space these days. It's crazy.
That's unheard of.
It is unheard of, but yet he does it. And obviously he brags about those things because his business is thriving so well, but it's how he manages it and what he does with it, above and beyond the process I walked him through. The idea is he went from it being a hobby, not thinking he was going to do anything, to it being his full-time business and something that he absolutely would never give up for the world, and is now teaching his children how to do as well.
That is very inspiring. I mean, how many people out there would love to have a breakthrough like that? You were saying that vulnerability state of why do you think they don't want to experience that? Like you said, they don't want to experience that emotion. Do you think it's that they're afraid it's going to bring them back to a place before? Or do you think on a subconscious level, they know it's going to be something great, and they're a little afraid of it. That,
So
fear of success, not failure.
Right. There's two sides to that coin. So the reason why why people are addicted to something is because we're avoiding something. We do something in lieu of something else. So we're avoiding feeling something is often what it is. And so in lieu of feeling bad about myself or my day, which I'm doing anyway, I'm going to overconsume something, whether that's TV, alcohol, cigarettes,
sugar,
whatever, right? So we do things in avoidance of, and oftentimes we don't want to feel that feeling. We don't want that feeling to be within us. And so if I eat enough, or if I can distract myself enough from that emotion, then I never have to feel it. But the problem is you're going to anyway. And so, but it's this life of escapism. That's what we live. We live a life of escapism. That's why so many people are held back from actually being and doing what they truly desire in their life, because we're avoiding something. And yet knowing what that is, I don't know what it is. It's individual to each person. We all are addicted to something in some manner. No matter what level of success you are, there's still something that's like still holding you back from that next level, that's still keeping you. But the coolest part about it is the example of Patty. This thing, like, that held her back for so long that when it released, she skyrocketed to essentially success in the field that she wanted to be in.
So the bigger the anchor, the bigger the catapult, it sounds like.
Oftentimes, yes.
I don't know about you, but that's kind of fun and encouraging to me, because it's I've heard before, your greatest struggle be your greatest victory. And it's like, whatever it is, you might not like it now, but just think about what that means, really. If you can wrap your head around that 5, 10, 20 years from now.
Absolutely.
I know what mine is, and it's good.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, I know what mine was.
5 people last year. Like, I have no time to waste. There is literally no time to waste.
Is that one of the reasons you wanted to co-author the book? And what has that done for your business since you've launched it?
So the book is HD Mindset, and you can go to hdmindset.com, or you can get it on Amazon.
I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes.
Okay. I co-authored this book in 2015, and this was something I've wanted to do for a long time. And if you're guaranteed, there's someone out there who's similar to me, where sometimes you need a little bit of accountability to get something done. And in this case here, I'm my co-author, Anthony Verderami, is an awesome guy. He does transformational coaching. Well, he owns Whole Life coaching, counseling, and he does amazing transformational hypnosis work with individuals. And the transformations are awesome. They're off the charts amazing. And I met him at a networking event. We hung out a couple times. I was like, dude, you need to write a book. And he was, yeah, I know, but what? So I said, let's write a book together. And it's crazy, because when he agreed to do that, I became like this hustler. I was like, dude, we got to do it this week. Let's do it this week. And I forced him to sit down with me and get this book done as quickly as possible. We had it done essentially in 1 week. And then it took another, 3 weeks or so to edit it down till it was where we liked it before we actually published it. But I had tenacity. Once I had someone on the hook, I was like, all right, we're getting this done. And I made it happen. So if you're a person like that, see, I'm not infallible. I started a book in 2008 that's still not done. I started a book in 2015 that I wrote in a week. So
would you say that urgency, sense of urgency and accountability were the biggest contributors?
Completely. For me, I needed it. I didn't know I needed it until I had someone who said they would do it with me. And then it transformed, and it was done.
A lot of people think you need 6 months, 12 months, 2 years to do a book. And my first one, I didn't know what I was doing, never wrote a book before, failed English 7 times. I was able to do it in 2.5 months. The second one was 1 day, and my third one was 5 days over Thanksgiving, going out every night and spending time with family.
Wow, you party hard when you're writing books, huh?
I actually don't really drink that much, but I love people. So it was like, no, I'll do a chapter here. And then it's like, I mean, literally maybe a half hour, 45 minutes a day. Oh, I did my work for the day and then go spend 6-8 hours, relaxing, seeing everyone.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Tomorrow I'm leaving. I'm going out of state to hang out with some family and, some rest and relaxation. But at the same time, I'm not going to stop working. I still have things on my plate that I got to get done.
But you sound like you know how to be fully present also.
I think that's absolutely key to really achieving great results. So
go for it.
Would you like a productivity hack? Would you like a productivity hack
Please.
That I use? Okay. Hopefully your people love this. I take a kitchen timer.
Yes.
A kitchen timer. I don't use a cell phone. I use a kitchen timer. Cell phone goes away. So if anything, notifications are on off. It's not on vibrate. It's on silent and it's face down. So I can't see or hear a thing about it, or it's in another room charging. And I have my kitchen timer and 90 minutes. And it's one thing, focused action on that one thing. And I'm telling you, my productivity levels, when I started doing that, started to skyrocket like I've never experienced before. And 90 minutes. Once it's done, I'll take anywhere between 5 and 15-minute breaks. And then I'll go back 90 minutes again. And so if you have a business where you got to do billing, you got to do, right? So billing and invoicing, you have to do sales work, whatever. You get the most productive one done first, your day transforms and you focus purely just solely on that one thing. It's crazy how things transform.
Well, I like to give you kudos because mine's the exact opposite. I use something I came up with called Block 15 time, and I teach my clients the same because 90 minutes for me is a stretch. My attention span is a little bit different, but then I'll take a 90-minute break. So, but I'll
be honest, I'm like you. My mind goes in a million different directions. If I'm paying attention to one thing, like even in conversation with you, right? Like, we could talk about so many different things, you and I. And so tangents are easy for me. As an entrepreneur, I feel like we're tangent heaven. We're latest, greatest, look at the new thing. But these 90-minute blocks, because I'm just dedicated to it, it gets done.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. I'd love to learn how your methodology too at some point.
So most people, their issue is starting. Because like right now, I know we're past 15 minutes and that's excellent because this is going well. And even when we talked on the phone, and it's not that I can't invest the time. It's just, what are you going to start on? So I go, if I can do 15 minutes. And the other thing is for writing the book, when I'm teaching my clients, you might be sitting at an airport. You might be at a red light. You might be having a railroad crossing. You might be waiting for someone going into a meeting. So I took the business methodology of just everything I've taught is from personal experience. And I just found myself in all these situations where it's like, you could look at it saying, I don't have the time, but realistically, how many inefficient gaps do you have in your day? And I go, well, everyone has time for a TED Talk. Everyone has time to read a column or whatever. I go, what if you just got one more paragraph of the book done? What if you just got one more? After a few days, there was one time I went to go write a chapter. It was already done and I forgot about it because it had been 3 or 4 little mini things. And basically I like to remove the excuses of I don't have the time or I don't have an hour, I don't have 30 minutes. It's like you always can find 15 minutes. There's 96 opportunities a day. One of our sponsors actually Rescue Time, eainterviews.com/rescue time. Have you ever used that tool?
I believe I have. It plugs into Gmail, is that right?
It goes onto your Chrome browser. It goes onto your desktop, your phone, your tablets, and everything. And I love it because it automatically tracks what you're doing. So First thing I have my clients do when they come into my 8-week training, day 1, week 1, they're like, what do I need to do for the title of the book? What do I need to do for this? I'm like, hook this up and forget about it. And then week 2, we look at it, and these are all high performing, affluent entrepreneurs like yourself, and they're productive. And I'm like, all right, let's play. And every single one of us, because I looked at mine and I was like, holy crap, do I really watch that many, comedy videos on YouTube or whatever? The answer is yes, because I love video. But then I thought about it going, is this me researching something? I mean, that's a BS gray area. Even I know that. But sometimes I am looking up stuff for a project, and most of the time it's not straight up. But I thought about it because a lot of people say, oh, you spend too much time on Facebook, LinkedIn. If you're generating sales and business and awareness and whatever you want, maybe it is a good use of your time, but maybe you can do it in 30 minutes and not 60.
Right.
So maybe it's not as bad as you think. However, in other areas, it's probably much worse than you're downplaying one and undervaluing the others, is my experience with it.
Right.
So speaking of video, how has video helped your business?
Man, in 2015, 2016, Periscope. I don't know if you know
Periscope and Meerkat.
Yeah. So I jumped on Periscope and started doing just gobs of lives. So every day I'd at least do one. And when I first started it, right, no one's paying attention to you at all. And then finally people get in, they share it out to their people, and they share it out to their people, and you amass a group of people who literally will follow you to the ends of the earth. You build a tribe the most organic way possible through Periscope. It was probably one of the coolest things that I actually ever used. But it's been several years since I've actually used it. And, when my mom got ill, that's when I stopped doing the lives. I didn't have time for work anymore. So my mom was pretty much full-time care. And then my sister, who was, like I said, blind and autistic, she's not full-time care by any stretch of the imagination. She's an amazing person. I just didn't get back to it, but I thought video through that was my launching ground actually for the mindset stuff.
And you're very heavy with the video in your trainings, right?
Completely. Absolutely.
What not aesthetic, modality, what do you think the benefits are of seeing someone on video in your training versus just reading about it?
It's the closest to being in the room with the person, right? So there's this intimacy that's automatically created by having a video that you can't get any other way. And it's interesting too. So you hear someone's voice so often, and then this probably happened to you and any number of your viewers watching this, is who your best friend is. And when they send you a text, you can hear them speaking that in your head, which makes it funnier, right? Like that funny text they sent, it makes it funnier because you hear it in their voice as you're reading the text. The same happens when you interact with someone on video over and over and over again, that when they receive your email or they go to your blog or there's a new experience with you, they're going to hear it through the light of you then as well. So it makes all the other experiences they have with you way more intimate. And to me, that is so much more powerful in doing that than any other modality or method, unless you're live. Live by far is the most powerful method anyone can use.
It's interesting you say that. I've done thousands of videos, but I never thought about that. If they're watching you on video, do they hear you in the email? I relate to it when you said, oh, I'm thinking of a couple of people now that, through Facebook Messenger, text or whatever. One of them is my niece. What's up, Steph? You hear her voice or their voice, but I never thought about the business videos I do, such as this one.
Right.
I never thought about it through the videos I do for business and how the ripple effect necessarily with that. But I get what you're saying on a personal level. So thanks for that. That's interesting.
Well, to me, there's a saying, facts tell, stories sell. Like I could have just told you, the intimacy part, but to translate it into something you've already experienced and anyone who's listening to this has already experienced, where they're reading a text and they automatically can hear that person's voice. It's the same thing, right? And that's the coolest part about this. You meet people who've only seen, at some point you'll meet people who've only either heard your podcast or seen your videos, but when they meet you, it's going to be as if they've known you forever, but you're just getting to know them for the first time. And it's a crazy, weird, cool experience all at the same time. Like, if you haven't experienced it, you will. And when you do, I'm telling you, it's kind of life altering.
Well, I appreciate you for bringing your perspective to it, because literally it's helped me even in this moment. I want to ask you something before we go to the imperfect action round. You're going to be the third person to experience this so far. I've been calling it the Expert Authority Roller Coaster.
Perfect.
So I have 12 questions. I'm not going to ask you all of them. I'm thinking of which one I want to ask you. And on a 1 to 10, what do you think you can handle?
Well, so
let me preface this a little bit. Okay. So I have stuff in here that's like world-changing, very cerebral, and that's like 8 out of the 10. And then I threw in a couple because I'm like, this is a bit much even for me. And it's like questions about movies, questions about like your favorite celebrity, and then the other one is stuff about your entrepreneurial journey. So less cerebral is lower, 10 is higher.
I'm fine with if you want to throw a 10 at me, or if you just want to like close your eyes, turn around a couple times, and then put your finger on there and see what happens. I'm fine with
actually plan on getting a wheel at some point to spin it and just be like, all right, let's see what happens here.
I like that.
I had a couple, but who is the one person you would love to have a conversation with one last time, and why?
One last time? So does this have to be someone who is already in my life? Because
it can be anyone you want.
So anyone I want. Napoleon Hill, I think, would be an amazing person to talk to. If you've not read his book, what a transformation. Think and Grow Rich is an amazing book, but to have a conversation with him. And so the book that's not so well known is his Principles book. That one by far is more life-changing than Think and Grow Rich. It's massive too. It's the 16 Principles. It's huge. It's an amazing book. I would love to sit down with him and talk to him, pick his brain, get to know some of the finer details of what he did, his interactions with other people, because he interviewed the wealthiest of the wealthy way back in the day and wrote his book. But the Principles book by far was so much more deep.
Are you familiar with that he took 20 years doing it?
His history is pretty unique, but yeah, obviously it was a journey for him. And I think that's the real reason why I would want to sit down and talk to him, is because you can't, that's why the Principles book is so much bigger. And 16 Principles, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. If you obviously just go to Amazon and type in Napoleon Hill, you'll find it in there. Such an amazing, amazing book, because he knew he couldn't compress everything into Think and Grow Rich. There had to have been more. But even the finer details of that, I still would love to know about. I'd love to hear about.
That's a good answer. And I'm smiling for another reason you'll find out in about 10 minutes from now. So, all right, we're going to go to what are we going to do? We're going to thank our sponsor and then come back for the imperfect action round. Invest automatically, save for later, and spend today. That's why I love Acorns. I used to think spare change didn't make a difference, and saving and investing was an old-fashioned manual process. It's not, and it's a game changer. If you're not leveraging compounding interest in your business and life, automatically you're missing out. Acorns not only makes saving and investing easy and automatic, it makes it even more valuable by investing with diversified portfolios, spare change, extra cash, and rounding up everyday transactions. You can even set recurring monthly investments in the amount you desire. To make good great, there is also a debit card option that will continue to help you save and invest even further when you spend. Plus, no minimum balance and overdraft fees. Now, for the cherry on top. They have partnered with 250 plus companies and brands, and growing, with their Found Money program to invest back a percentage into your account with the everyday purchases when you shop. 2 of which you're probably listening to this right now through an Amazon or Apple device. Get started profiting from your everyday life and business simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/acorns. We're back with the imperfect action round. David, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I think that's what I do every single day. So yes.
Very good. I think that's what we all do as entrepreneurs. First question. What, in your experience growing your business, what is the fastest path to the cash?
The fastest path to the cash is the ascension ladder. Knowing how and where to bring clients and customers into your ascension ladder, essentially, how people interact with you or the business. You know, if you have a variety of products or services, knowing what those specifically are and the steps to each of those is what converts potential customers into buying consumers of your content, whatever that happens to be, right? So if it's a product or if it's a service, but knowing what that ladder is, knowing how to ascend people through it and how they interact with you within it is that's so important. And I feel that so few people know that. And in doing that, that perfect customer becomes apparent or should become apparent to you. And when you think you can advertise and market to everyone, that's when you're failing not only yourself, but your business and your customers, because you can't. You want to. I get it. You want to. I've been there. I've wanted to help everyone. I can't. There's no way I can. And when you narrow that focus down, that's when so much more happens for you.
Very good. Second question. What is the biggest problem you see your prospects making, and what's the fastest way they can fix it?
Asking for help. And I'm guilty of it. I'm certain that you're probably guilty of this too. We're afraid to ask for help. We are so afraid to raise our hand and say, that's where I'm at.
Why do you think that is?
What's that?
Why do you think that is?
We're shown that we're supposed to be self-sufficient. Look at all the self-made everything out there, which is BS. No one is self-made. Nothing is self-made. No one is, nothing is. Nothing just appeared out of nothing. Can't. This book was written and then put together in a book format. There was a process to making this happen. There's a process to everything. But we feel that we should already get there. We should be able to figure it out ourselves.
Do you think that school has anything to do with it, where you can't fail and you have to do everything perfect to keep that A and you can't ask for help?
Certainly, we're conditioned all over the place. Everywhere we're conditioned. TV, radio, school, college, work, all of those places. Now, I'm not accusing any, certainly there are those ones that
you might not
better than others.
You might not be. I think we just came up with a third thing we could do a whole show on. Third question. How do you maximize the customer lifetime value?
It's that ascension ladder. When you know where they come in, you'll know where to bring them next. And if you can't bring them to the next stage, they're going to find someone who can. And if you aren't there already, either figure it out or become a referral partner with that person who is that next step. And conversely too. So if you're in the middle of the road, find someone who's at the beginning of the road and be their next step. So in doing that, you gain their clients as well, right? it's a shared pool now, as opposed to it's just your own. We're so focused on us, me, I, that sometimes we fail to realize there's other people who are complementary to us that we could team up with or work with, share our knowledge with, that could help us get more.
That's very insightful. So the reason I was smiling earlier was this next question. What book has made the biggest impact in your life?
Oh, geez. Do I need to answer it? I truly, one of the best books that I could ever think of sharing with anyone is called The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. So yes, Napoleon Hill and his book, The Principles book, is by far one of the best books you'll ever pick up and ever read. And if you're not a reader, his audiobook for it is 24 hours long.
That's a good day.
That's a real good day. So, but the book, Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard, shortest chapters, 1, 2, 3-page chapters. You will have to read each of those oftentimes 3, 4, or 5 times before it like really sinks in. It's just powerful stuff. It's stuff that you can't like put your finger on, but you know by reading it. And I'm not telling you to believe everything you read anyway. You know, think and feel for yourself, rationalize things yourself. But if it feels right, then you're doing better than if you think it's right. Trust your gut more than your head. But that book, The Power of Awareness, is probably one of the most transformational first books that anyone could ever read.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with Expert Authority World. I'll make sure that one is also in the show notes. Where can people find you?
You can find me at onlywhenyoneed.com. But if you're interested, I'm doing a challenge. So it's a 30-day breakthroughs challenge. And the coolest part is you can go to breakthroughs or breakthrough. You can actually plural or singular, doesn't matter, breakthrough or breakthroughschallenge.me. And you can sign up there to be a part of the next challenge when I launch it. I release
Excellent.
it. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you making that available to us.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on again, and I look
Thanks
forward
for
to
having me,
connecting.
Mario.
It's honestly been a pleasure. I'm glad we could connect further, and I got a lot out of this myself, so thank you.
I appreciate you very much and your audience. Thanks, Mario.
All right, Expert Authority World, that's it. We got another good one for you. Have a great day, and God bless.